Good evening. We are picking up roughly where we left off last time. Congratulations, Arena, on being first. At the conclusion of the last stream, I was told many times that I should do some grinding off camera, so I did. My swords are better, and my workshop is better, and I have every skill point that is not gated behind a servant who is currently dead or otherwise inaccessible, so there's no more progression to look forward to in this playthrough. You're very welcome. And now we're doing a raid on Edo Castle. It's time. We're going to put an end to the waxing moon ritual. Right. The path ahead isn't going to be easy, but we can do it. We're going to save Kaya and cut down Chiemon. Together, we march, Iori. Yep, looks like this is the entirety of Japan. Or Edo, rather. Rogue servants do rogue servant things. Well, obviously we split up immediately. Getting Arya first feels disproportionately good. Like, the earlier the better. So... Saber, I think I will have... move like this to begin with, and Iori will move like this. It seems they control everything up to the southern side of Edo Castle. They already know where our base is. They'll be moving directly for the Spirit Line. I'll take care of that. If we take the south, we can lay siege to the castle. And then I get Arya. I'm so happy to find you unharmed, Lord Iori. Yeah, no problem. You seem okay too, Arya. Yeah, I must support my man until the end, after all. Now, Lord Iori, take this. Thank you, I'll be sure to use it. Yes, I will summon Arya. And she wanted to give me a Spirit Devourer, but... I already had a bunch. So I'll throw away the one that I already had and keep hers. Now, as for Saber... I do want to clean up all of these, so I think Saber does actually have to go that way. I find it kind of funny how fighting as Saber without Iori is pretty much entirely a buff. Because Saber is so much stronger than Iori. And if I am Saber rather than am Iori fighting with Saber, I don't have the usage limit on Saber's time. Is this magical energy is cascading out of the castle? Look, monsters are being drawn in. It's the ritual. Kaya. We have to break through the bounded field now. A curse. Be careful. You guys, looks like you're getting into quite the scuffle, huh? You said it. It's gonna be the end of the ritual too. We're going to win. That's great. But shouldn't you be asking for my help? Oh well, I'll help you anyway, like this. Seal the movement of all enemies on ley lines. I have to watch over my darling piglets to be, you know? If anything happens, just call me. Yes, please fight with me. I'll give you a hand. Alright, she can go there, Iori can go this way, and Saber... This whole triangle here is kind of awkward to reach. Yeah, I don't think there's any way around that being awkward. Then Iori can go this way. Enemies, huh? Let's proceed with caution. She can go that way. I would like to get Lancer up and running, and getting Archer would also be nice. Oh, I got an Earth Arts. It'd be nice if I could, like, burn these instead of having to throw one away. So in light of that, I should probably burn one. We'll get that, and let's get this as well. Incidentally, my swords, one of the effects on them is one with the Void. I can actually show them off. Yeah, normal attacks plus 100, heavy attacks plus 200, Valor strikes plus 100, Valor gauge fill rate 200, affinity gauge fill rate 200, Void stance plus 200, plus 100 damage to monsters, plus 100 damage to servants. As far as I can tell, that's as good as swords get in this game. Technically, they could be better against humans, but humans tend to never be the problem. I also made sure that the swords aesthetically matched my preferences. See, you say high success rate of like fox hunting maneuvers. Literally, I just save scummed. I parked myself in front of a merchant that sold a scabbard and just saved the game. Bought it from him. If it wasn't what I was after, I just loaded, and I just did that over and over. You don't actually have to get them as drops. You can just save scum them. Now let's Circe do her thing. Saber is going to be coming down through here, so... next turn this will be accessible, so I can actually have Iori double back. And looks like Circe's gonna cut that one off. Oh wait, I thought that there was a line here. There isn't. Alright. Be gone with both of you. Okay, can't get in there. Saber grabbing this should grab both of those. So Saber can go... Saber can go like that. Circe, I do want pushing... Circe, I do want pushing into enemy terrain. Or territory, rather. And Iori kind of doesn't have anywhere elegant he can go. So he's just gonna have to spend some time in territory that we already own. Oh. They're tumbling out one after the other. It won't be easy to deal with them all. Sure it will. Circe's about to kill both of these and unlock Rogue Lancer, for example. Though I guess Iori's gonna pick a fight first. I probably should have healed before the fight ended. Oh well. Circe's gonna cut that off. Oh wait, I bet Iori probably has to visit Archer to actually summon him. Oh well, luckily Iori's in the area. I'm kind of just thinking to myself, I wonder how many people don't split up Iori and Saber once they have the option. This feeling, it seems the ritual is finally coming to an end. Edo Castle's defenses are sturdy, and monsters move in droves. Be careful. You've saved me many times before. I've come here to return the favor. Ah. Oh, and he just killed a bunch of guys. Awesome. We appreciate the help. If you require my assistance, just call. I will help open the path forward. Oh, so you can summon a servant on my behalf. Awesome. Looks like they know what they're doing for the most part. Saber can go that way. Those two are gonna fight. I really haven't put any practice into Rogue Archer, but it looks like this fight's not gonna be too much of a fight. So that's nice. The monsters that lost their magical energy have faded away. Okay, so I kind of ended up on Chiemon's doorstep much faster than I thought I would. Yeah, if it works, it works. I still have the upgraded Valor Strike from the story. I don't think I could trigger a riposte while that cutscene was playing. Though I also just apparently suck at dodging into noise. Also, that is Golden Glow, so it fills the entire the entire health bar rather than just half. So technically I probably should be waiting to use it. And it has been diced into kibble. It will be available at food stalls across Japan as discount dog food. Alright, we got the ley line. The way to Edo Castle is now open. Kaya, please be okay. Yeah, I suppose Iori will just kind of camp here while the servants go around and clean up. You had to work late because you were traveling today. Glad you could catch your stream. I'm glad you could show up. Thank you for showing up. I am currently doing quite well in this Spirit Font conflict. So I literally can just like pass my turn on Ihori a bunch of times and still like make progress. I like how Lancer didn't even have anything to do. He just kind of showed up to say hi. Yep, cool, we'll get that, which will claim that, and CRC can claim one of those, which will get the other one automatically. So I suppose I can try to call Saber back. Because I am going to want Saber with me as I walk into Edo Castle. You managed to get them all. Now all the magical energy here belongs to us. It is Mario. First name Mario, last name Mario. Yep, well it looks like I didn't miss anything, so in we go. I never did figure out who Caster was. Oh, piles of flash everywhere. Love to see it. What is this? It looks like mud. It's corruption, leaking from the waxing moon. You'd best not touch it, Iori. Ready, Iori? Let's go. Has the corruption already eaten its way into the foundations? We have to get out of here as soon as possible. Yeah, unfortunately for these monsters, I am in fact the storm that is approaching, so... I feel powerful magical energy from above. Let's move. You think the Shogun is looking at this and being like, oh boy, I can't wait to get my wish? 前はもう死んでる。Yoink. Not that there's much point to loot anymore. Though I guess these are here just in case you didn't upgrade your stuff. The symbol of Fate has been overrun by monsters. Just how powerful is this waxing moon? Yeah, I've gotten like one of everything. That's even a 5-star. Yeah, I would have been totally fine not upgrading my stuff. Oh well. And it's dead. Yohen Tenmoku Tibo. Oh, those flowers are pretty. I like them. I just came from that direction. Luckily for once, my memory actually worked. These guys aren't playing around. Be careful. I will say I am a little bit sad that the Spirit Font conflict ended so quickly. Like, I actually enjoy thinking about like which notes to take and how to claim everything. And I kind of just ran over the entire thing with no opposition. Oh well, it is what it is. There's Spirit Font conflicts and Fate Grand Order? Huh. Everything I'd seen about gameplay in Fate Grand Order was basically just like tap icons and watch your characters do billions of damage. Typical slot machine nonsense, more or less. Now, why didn't anybody ever talk about that bit? I might have actually been interested. Oh well, it's still gacha at the end of the day. Yeah, even if they did have it, I wouldn't start playing, because still, gacha. Like, to clarify, I did download Fate Grand Order and play like the first bit of the tutorial, but the gameplay didn't captivate me and the story was so much of a slog that I just lost all interest. And then it being gacha on top of that was just nail in the coffin. It's like, hi, I want to have Tamamo on my team. Can I have Tamamo on my team? Sometimes. Not right now. Okay, when? We're not gonna tell you. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna buy it. Like, I pretty much avoid all gacha on principle, and every time I give one a shot, it just reinforces that I ought to. And then we do a little bit of a sneaky. And then we do another little sneaky. You know, who knows, maybe someday they'll release Grand Order as like a standalone game that isn't gacha. But I doubt it. So yeah, it sounds like the sort of game that I'll never play, and never have a meaningful interest in playing. Oh well. The corrosion is even worse here. Does this mean that Shiemon is nearby? Wait, I sense monsters. And there they are. No way out but forward. Oh, thank you for the head pats. For some reason, I really struggle to dodge into that Niue's charge attack. The part of me that likes to complain when things don't go my way feels like the hitbox on that one has to be a bit wonky. Because I think I successfully riposted it like one time. Anyway. Ooh, this one's sparkly. In the bad way. As are these two. Yeah, when I was a child, I could never tell the difference between Super Saiyan 1 and 2. It's like, oh yeah, 2 is the one that sparkles more. Otherwise, it's visually completely the same. Alright, we're coming for you, Kaya. Yeah, instead of hiring a cleaning lady, he developed a technique so fast it reaches into a miracle. And then Iori does it with a sword in both hands, so he hits 6 times instead of 3. There you are. Chiemon, I came to take Kaya back. And also, I guess, save the world from the waxing moon. Huh, so the demon came all this way. Call me whatever you like. The waxing moon ritual ends here. You face me now, Lancer. To think that you would kidnap her from me not once but twice. It's unforgivable. Prepare yourself. As you wish. I shall simply fulfill my duties as a servant. Huh, you're as talkative as ever. Chiemon, the reason why you hate me so much. I never figured it out, even now. But words are no longer necessary. Now you'll be answering to my sword. Fine then. As you're so bent on charging in, I'll show you the way to hell. I'll kill your partner, sacrifice your sister. I'll burn Ada to the ground. Face me, Iori. Miyamoto Iori. He's very upset for some reason. Jeanne d'Arc, the corrupted maiden. One more servant, just one more. Then the gates to hell will be thrown wide open. Rude.
良い身のこなしだ。
なんせ
直ちに
力を借りる。
お呼びでしょうか。
邪魔だ邪魔だ。当たりはしない。力を借りる。
今のうちに傷を癒せ。死ぬぞ。
遅いな。畜生め。
And she admonished them. And she didn't appreciate that.
覚悟は良いか。貫く出番だな。我らが刃突き立てる。
No shell for you.
力を借りる。
出番だな。我らが刃突き立てる。やはり貴様支援を止めぬのだ。マスターが地獄に落ちるのを望むならば
If my master wishes to fall into hell, I shall fall with him.
力を借りる。
Well, she's loyal, if nothing else.
切れまい。
遅いな。
直ちに
I really enjoy ruining the gravitas of all their epic moments by calling in Arya to handle it. It's like they're trying to do all this edgy, like, flaming gates of hell stuff, and then there's just a cute little fox girl prancing around and cheering.
遅いな。 当たりはしない。つまめ返し。畜生め。
すかさず追い打て。刮目せよ。
力を借りる。
分かった。我らが刃突き立てる。せい。そこだ。
And they're dead. Damn it. I can't fall just yet. I... Suddenly pre-rendered. Oh no, don't you touch her. What are you doing? Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Then I shall become him and open the gates of hell right here. Yeah, while this is happening, I'm still kind of wondering where Castor is. Yes, they did say that Castor was around before the ritual was. Chiemon's like, ha, I'm going to hell. This is awesome. I command you, Lancer. Become the sacrifice. That is what command spells are for, technically speaking.
承知しました。
Understood. That goop is definitely why this is pre-rendered. It's looking like he's regretting his decision just a little bit. Though it's kind of hard to tell. Oh wait, never mind, he's cussing again. Chiemon, you... Kaya. You ate Kaya?
違う。
No way, he couldn't do that. Kaya's protected by my wife, Walter Tachibana. Chiemon can't use divine magic. The best he can do is encase her inside of his body. You get it, Iori? Don't just stand there. Smash that shell open and get her back. Right. He looks so happy. Waxing moon monster, the despairing god of corruption. Into the arm, Iori. Break it. Dude is telegraphed harder than a level 60 Final Fantasy XIV dungeon monster. Did Chiemon wish for this form? This is just too... Do you think his torso got long like that when he went to hell, or do you think it was just always like that and he was hiding it under his robe? It was both long before he went to hell and then it got longer after he got there. Maybe that's why he hates everything. It's like the kids always made fun of me for my weirdly long torso. Oh, I just realized his hand has a bunch of melted bodies. His left hand. His right hand on our left has a bunch of melted bodies in it. That's really cool. I actually like that. So it looks like Hell is constantly trying to drag him back. Which is kind of cool if he's like constantly being dragged back and it's just like the fight is more for as long as he has the persistence to try and stay out of it.
我が前に立ちはだかるすべて地に伏せよ。 身発揮怒涛うむ
Yeah, I just had a thought. What if Artoria fired Excalibur into hell? Oh shoot, he got his legs back.
やつめ
Did he climb out of the gate?
出たか
I don't know, Yori, do your eyes work?
ここからだ
Looks like that way.
より
The fight's only just begun. Let's begin. Because, like, Excalibur scales with, like, how much of a threat to the world what is pointed at is.
力を借りる
So if Artoria pointed at hell, would she just, like, destroy all of hell? It's like,
上ない幕引きであるのだ
Artoria's English, she probably
なぜだなぜ
she probably knows what hell is.
放ついつで
力を借りる
出番だな
頼む
見せたな攻め時だ畳みかけろ
見えている
This is your opportunity. Strike now.
遅いな見えている
I can make so much kibble out of this guy.
もらった決めるライダー
すぐに参りますわ我らが刃突き立てるしぶといやつね
Good stuff. We just gotta do it again.
もう一度だ
I wonder how specific Chiemon's wish was.
押し切る捉えた
You think he was like, hey, Holy Grail, make me like a giant man with like one arm made out of bodies, one arm made out of souls, and like, I want to be like really big, but like my rib cage is sticking out. Or do you think he was just like, here are the talking points that I'd like, just improv along the way?
押し切る決める遅いな力を借りる
気を見せたな攻め時だ畳みかけろ見せてやれ
頼む
任せろ我らが刃突き立てる
It's like, unhand me immediately, monster.
しぶといやつめならばもう一度だ
I have burned through those gems a lot faster than I thought I would.
押し切る
I should try being a little bit more conservative with them.
あと一押しか
勝負が見えるお呼びでしょうか発目せよ
頼む
出番だな我らが刃突き立てる
遅いなここだ
Oh, he's got a sword.
見えた
Interesting.
終わりだせい
And he's dead. Thank you for the head pats. We're going to take a 5-minute break here. Please use this time to refill your beverage, go to the bathroom. Anything that would take you about 5 minutes. I'll see you shortly. I return. Oh, is he gonna burn his last command spell to power it up?
願いを砕いてくれ
Destroy the waxing moon. Takeru. Thank you. So, like, are we just ignoring that Caster is still a threat? Because Caster is still a threat, just saying. Oh, Shiema, I thought you were in hell. Don't worry, I'll send you back there. My poor boy. What am I to do with you? Mother? Everyone. They're all there. I won't go. I mustn't. And then he died. This feels like the credits are about to start rolling. Yep, there they are. Can I make them go faster? Looks like I can't. I totally should have just run ads during these instead. Oh well. Oh yeah, definitely, like, there's definitely a post-credits scene. I know that there's like a new route. Oh, here we are. That didn't take too long. Yuri and Kaya. And then the sun rises. It's symbolic. Oh, the credits were not in fact over. Oh, but I can skip these ones. Awesome. The ritual has ended, and yet his blade remains unsated. Yeah, it's been mentioned a few times in chat that the true ending is only in New Game Plus. The following settings became available from the second playthrough. Carry over cleared game data, you may choose to start from Chapter 2. Sword Demon difficulty setting and Fatal Sword difficulty setting. Cleared game data can be carried over. When clearing over cleared game data, you may choose to start from Chapter 2. Sure, carry over. I presume that Fatal Sword is the highest one, or is it Sword Demon? It does say it can be changed later, but Sword Demon was highest at release, so I presume it's Fatal Sword now. You obtained a Book of Resolutions. Using the Book of Resolutions resets every character's acquired skills. I don't need that. After reaching an agreement with Takao Dayu, Iori and Saber began their search for Yui Shosensu. But the way forward is blocked by the fires of hell. The entrants gather with disparate motives. From that maelstrom, a shadow draws near. If I try skipping a cutscene with new content, I'll get warned? Awesome. It's kind of like how VNs will like ray out options that you clicked on before. Okay, it says that I've completed these, so I presume I don't have to do them again. Also, I noticed that this thing is purple, which is moderately ominous, and consequently, somewhat interesting. I presume that a purple encounter is... oh, giant monsters. From the second playthrough, giant monsters that are far more powerful than the normal varieties will appear all across Edo. Defeating a giant monster will complete a monster log, netting you a reward. Defeating any one of these giant monsters will be a monumental undertaking. Be well prepared when facing these foes. Oh, I'm dead instantly. Alright. So that's the kind of game they're bringing. Yeah. I'll try playing these for a while. If it's not fun, I'll go down to Sword Demon.
どうしたどうした捕らえた
I tend to not enjoy being one-shot, so we'll see.
見誤った
I call shenanigans on that one. Yeah, I'm just gonna... No retries or items during combat are allowed. Let's try Sword Demon.
俺は俺のなすべきをなそう澄み渡る
運が良かったな。
Nice. That kick still hurts about as much.
見えている遅いな
読めた。
どうした見えている捕らえた遅いな遅いな
大技が来る。構えろ。
遅いな見誤った
Oh, it's still a one-shot. I guess it doesn't matter either way, then. I simply will not bother with this right now. Also... I can give points to Samson. Need more Samson points. Right, once per fight, presumably, I can come back to life after getting my shit rocked. I need to get 3 more things from Rogue Saber. And to do that, I need to beat people with him. The other one was, I think, Lishwen, and his stuff is blocked off until I do his quests, which I presume are not available on the route that I did last time.
Oh, あれは。より。赤坂は立派な屋敷が多い。
宣告今日
It always annoys me just a little bit when I skip something, but then there's like 2 more cutscenes that have to be skipped independently. It's like I'm not gonna change my mind a third of the way through the entire thing that I want to not see.
小水と浪人もくら
Anyway. Like, segmenting is fine if, like, there's anything in between them, but when there isn't, it just means you have to hit skip 3 times instead of once.
何かあるな。
And we still never did kick Caster's butt. I presume that's on another round. Yeah, gameplay segments that are nothing burger cutscenes, essentially, that you can't skip because they're technically gameplay. Those are even worse. Like, you can't even just, like, put it down and walk away. Okay, Yori, I'm gonna do such a good job. I'm gonna protect the heck out of this Magecraft workshop. Yeah, this is Spirit Kai. I appreciate the enthusiasm, but you must be careful. You worry too much. Oh, that's right. Father gave me this. Why don't we use it in the workshop? This could be useful. Good thinking, Kaya. Was there something new in that? It didn't feel new. Oh, Arya. Oh, Unassailable Fortress. This one is new. There was once a boy who lost everything to the merciless flames of hell, and thus devoted his life to vengeance. His name was Chiemon. The burning resentment he held deep within his heart since that tragic day brought him to a fateful encounter on a night bathed in the light of the full moon. Several days earlier, in Koshikawa, Edo, oh, he's summoning on purpose. O Lord, forgive me my trespasses. Heed my words. My will creates your body, and your sword creates my destiny. If you obey my will and reason, then answer me. Seventh heaven clad in the great words of power. Come forth from the circle of binding. Guardian of the scales. Despair, remorse, hatred, rage. Seething emotions of violent passion defile my soul. Servant, Lancer. There can be no hope of a miracle. At last, at long last. Now I can finally... Lancer. I will make of Edo a hell on earth. A hell on earth? Oh, yes. It will be consumed in the flames. All of it. Look, this is Edo Castle, the home of the tyrannical shogunate dogs who laugh at the suffering masses. This festering society's perfect symbol. There's nothing I'd rather throw on the fire. I can feel the torrent of energy flowing into this place, more than any other spirit font. Then there truly are more ley lines running through this spirit font. You know, back when Edo was nothing more than an empty field, the shogun of the time asked Onmyoji for help. Following their counsel, he built his new capital where many ley lines converged. And that's where Edo Castle is now located. I thought it was all bullcrap, but it seems the story might be true after all. Either way, with so many ley lines, this is the perfect place to establish the gate. We should search through the castle then. Oi, Lancer, find a way in. It would appear that we've been discovered. It seems the dogs have tamed these creatures. Leave none alive, Lancer. Yes, as you command. I wonder if I will gain access to upgrades for Lancer on New Game Plus. Like maybe there's a route where we ally with Chiemon and just make everything awful. So I was kind of curious about all the extra empty space in Iori's skill tree where like presumably stuff from other servants goes in, because I got one from Leishman, I got one from Samson. I got one from Musashi. Actually, I'm already friends with Rogue Lancer, so I'm probably not going to make friends with Lancer. And I'm not allowed to use items in combat because this is Fatal Sword. I'm probably gonna end up setting the difficulty back because so far this just feels like it's adding slog, if I'm being entirely honest.
譲るわけには。逃がしません。当たりません。やっ、祈りましょう。悔やみなさい。無駄です。悔やみなさい。ここまでですか。
Okay, yeah, I'm putting the difficulty back down.
Yurio.
機会があれば
慈悲なき豪華に全てを奪われ、
I'd like to skip this
復
one,
讐の海へ
please.
と身を落とした少年がいた。その名は知恵門。かの日より彼の胸を焦がし続けた怨嗟の炎は、望月の夜、定めと呼ぶべき出会いをもたらした。
見ろこれかまず
この知恵や
かつおなそう雑魚の言う相手いたずらに時をかけ
はい。祈りましょう。逃がしません。
The bodies exploding when they die is quite annoying.
2番手が控えていました。江戸城の守備は相当に堅固なものですね。
次から次へとなってほしい
祈りましょう。戦場の死よ、その嘆きをここに。
I'd wish that I could skip the Noble Phantasm cutscenes as well.
ラビアルシ
Like, they're cool the first time, but then they kind of also drag on a bit.
見くびらぬよう。
Oh, I suppose it's to be expected that things are going to take longer when I'm not Yori or Saber. If only because I'm not as familiar with the movesets. will say, on the more positive side of things, I do love Lancer's like visual design, like the armor and the cloak. I'm very into that. The bare thighs are a questionable decision when the rest of her body's in full play, but she knows what she's doing better than I do, I suppose. There, do we kill them as well, Master? Don't bother with them. We got what we came for. We're leaving, Lancer. However rotten it may be, Tokugawa's castle won't fall that easily, eh? But I found a way to tear it down. Soon you'll see. I will take everything, burn everything, all of it with my own 2 hands. While Iori and Saber chased after Assassin, Shosetsu's ally, Chiemon, having finished scouting Edo Castle, was alone at his base, lost in reverie. The waxing moon ritual has been proceeding well enough. My servant isn't terrible, and that Yui Shosetsu might even prove to be of some use. It shouldn't be long then. That voice. What is this? All of you, run! Mother! Forgive me. Stop it. Let go of me, Father. No, you must quickly. Stop. Father? No, it can't be. Stop it. Huh? Why do I keep... Is he being fed hallucinations by Castor, I wonder? What the hell? Please, stop it. I can't take anymore. Like, obviously PTSD is a thing, but I wonder if Castor is following his strings. It hurts so much. I don't want to die. Can I move faster, please? Money, food, I'll give you anything you want. Please, just don't kill me. And then they killed him. Ah, my god, hast thou? Also, I noticed that when that guy died, his hand was as if he was gripping a sword. They just reused the animation. Shit. Please answer me. Mommy, please. My lungs are burning. I can't breathe. Good work. You're no longer of any use. This isn't what we agreed on. You said you'd let me go if I told you where they were. No, stay back. Why is there an hour and a half between each line? No, I can't. Not yet. Danny's dead. Shit. There is no salvation. I already know. I don't have to see anymore. Mother, father, you. It's all my fault. Because of me, mother and father. Why am I the only one left? There is no reason to protect somebody like me. You can say that again. Why would somebody like you? Master! Eh. Hey kid, I'll show you what it is you want to see soon enough. So, don't come out just yet. Master. Lancer, you must have been having a nightmare. Did you see your home burning? What? How do you... Ah, you saw my past, did you? Well, you're right. I was dreaming of the day that will be forever burned into my mind. Towering flames and blood painted across scorched earth. It's the very hell I seek. What you seek? Well, Lancer, you saw my past, and what of it? I catch a glimpse of my past, and now you think you don't understand everything? You make me sick. This is a problem for me and me alone. Don't stick your nose where it doesn't belong. Master, even if I cannot save your soul, oh, I am not yet allowed to split up.
Saber.
任せて。しかと。
敵。頼む、セイバー。
あ。
You can just have Saber kill everything.
戻ったぞ。
It's not against the rules or anything. It was humans I had to kill with Rogue Saber, right? To unlock his thing.
とく片付けよう。残念だったな。
So not a lot of point in fighting monsters with him.
覚悟は良いか。すかさずお湯で。
ああいうわかった遅いな当たりはしないで
And they're dead.
私あっての
This
勝
victory
利
is
だな。
thanks to me, Saber says.
そうだな
Now I'm pretty sure Ngimiori did a lot of the work there.
より行くぞ、より。
I should probably be picking fights. Assuming that they're fights with
見
people.
ろ、より。
So that I can use Rogue Saber on them. Yeah, defeat humans and get power from Todoroki.
いらっしゃ。また来ておくれよ。いら。かやに。こ。かやにもか。それじゃあね。
Thank you for the headphones. I appreciate them. And this looks like people.
力を借りる
呼んだか
Oh, thank you for the rotation and the hydration. Now, I wonder if using Rogue Saber like that counted. Yes, it did. Awesome. So I don't have to substitute with him, I can just summon him to do an affinity attack. It's kind of interesting that they brought this thing up like it was going to be a thing, and then I did it like 2 or 3 times total throughout the entire game.
より、あれは止めるのか。
Also, I forgot the difference between R1 and RT.
少し落ち着け
Like, there were like 3 opportunities total to do it. Anyway.
不用心だったのか。
良いだろう。
打ちのめしてからいろいろと聞き出すぞより。
I imagine that the higher difficulty levels are more reasonable at higher levels. Ooh, assassin digression. Yeah, if I'm just getting one shot, they hold no appeal to me. A western ship suddenly arrived at port, and a foreign girl descended the ramp. Secretly a mage of the clock tower? Is it really a secret if she announces it? Her name was Dorothea Koyet. Within moments of her arrival, the entire town of Yokosuka was changed into an impregnable magecraft workshop. The workshop in Yokosuka is nearly complete. Next we will take the surrounding spirit box. And we'll start with Kanagawa Port. Dorothea, you speak so loudly. The sound suppression bounded field should be working without any issue, though. Hi, have it your way. As the next head of the Koyet family, I must win this ritual. Now you say this purple circle encounter, but then I tried the digression with Lancer, and that was also just not fun. I asked Father to pull some strings so I could lead Digimon and come to Edo. I'll take the fort and find my way up to the Tokaido. I'll even use cannons if I have to. The name Dorothea Koyet will not be sullied by defeat. And then she got betrayed and killed by her own servant. Of course. Good, are you ready? We're going to take control of Kanagawa. Heh, I shall show you a mere glimpse of my true power. Speaking of which, scouts reported that low-rank magical beasts and spirits, or simply put, monsters, have started appearing all over Edo. This is likely due to the ritual's influence. I suspect they are drawn to spirit fonts. Beasts seek out fodder, as is only natural. At any rate, I haven't the least shred of doubt concerning your victory. But let's proceed with caution. Now for the spirit fonts. To Kanagawa Port. Oga Saboru, I have no clue who that is. A transformation brought about by a mountain god's curse. This monstrous fusion of man and serpent wields unspeakable power. They've come. I'm counting on you, assassin. I don't know Kokusaburo from SMT. Like, maybe if I saw him in context in SMT to jog my memory, but the name does not ring a bell. Man's noodle arms are a bit gross.
Mina holt Kama out Villa di Dobrudo. Vollständig!
That's German, but I'm not sure what she said.
なるほど。
Interesting.
これが異国の術か。
This is what foreign magic is capable of?
ええ、それもほんの
This is what child's play. The Koye family's magic is capable of much more.
口寄せ。知れ。セミ。 見せてやる。
私の歩みは止まらないわ。さすがにもうぶち抜くのは目
Breaking
立
to
ち
the
す
gate
ぎ
would
る
be too
かしら。
conspicuous. Let's look for another path.
なれば。
Shall we climb the cliff then? Allow me if you would. I guess they're just not smart enough to do the dematerialization trick like Saber does.
手を貸してやろう。
頼んだわ。
I think that was a really missed opportunity to just have the man's legs extend really far.
レディーの扱いを心得ているの
I
ね。
see you know how to treat a lady.
こう見えて、妻も
I may not look it, but I had a wife once. Several, actually. Like, he could enter it, then just open the door from the inside, is what I'm saying. You know, he could have just, like, noodle-legged up, taken a step forward, and put her down.
まさかサーバント。
This magical energy, could it be a servant?
私が行こう。
I will go, master. I cannot allow a mortal such as yourself to face the heroic spirit. Email savers like talk shit, get hit, Iori.
やはり。
As I thought, but a bow?
この地の静
You
寂を
who
乱
disturb
す
the peace of this land.
何の用向き
I
か
do
は
not
知
know
りま
what
せん
business you
が
have here, but one cannot be too careful. This is unfortunate, because this was the serpent I remember being the most annoying to fight. I called shenanigans on that one. I was behind him. I am the swarm, the immortal serpent made many. Omen of the great god Ibuki. I think it's kind of cool how I can see his simple phantasm gauge acting like a timer.
切り直
見せてやろう。
受けるがいい。甘い。この程度か。覚悟。激だ。
I still call shenanigans on him being able to hit me with a bow when I'm standing directly behind him.
食らうがいい。
塵も残さぬ。
覚悟。食らうがいい。受けるがいい。甘い。終わらせましょう。
塵も残さぬ。
このままでは拉致が開きま
This is
せん
getting
ね。
us nowhere. Then I'll...
あの世。
That's the arrow said to slay even gods. The legends may even be true in this case. I can't risk it. I'll retreat for now.
引いたか。
Has he retreated? I hope he never comes again.
どういうこと？
What's the meaning of this? I heard nothing about a heroic spirit being here.
神速の弓を振るいし
It was a warrior who handled the bow with godlike speed. It must be an archer.
アーチャー？
Archer?
当人が
But
連れ
it's
てい
not
た
the
の
same
とは
heroic
別の
spirit
英
that
霊
serves
よ
the
ね。
Chinese man, right?
さよ
Correct.
いずれかがアーチャーで
So
はない
either one of them is not actually an archer, or perhaps there are two archers.
そんな。
But
い
that's...
え、そもそも
No,
この儀
the
は
ritual is
不完
flawed to
全。
begin with, and the manner
由
of
来さえ
summoning is
わからない
unknown.
何が起ころう
There's
か
no telling what to expect.
参ったわね。
This isn't good. To think that I'll be off to such a poor start.
アーチャーの周囲に
Was there a
工
workshop
房ら
near
しきも
Archer?
のはあった？
Any signs that he
マ
received
スタ
commands
ー
from
か
a
ら指示を
master?
受けた。
いいな
No.
もし
And
隠
making a
れてい
workshop
るなら
invisible would be quite an impressive undertaking.
仮に双方がアーチャーだとするなら
Supposing both are archers, then more than 7 servants must have been
けれ
summoned.
ど、
But
この
only
儀の
7
参加
masters
者
and
は
7
限られ
heroic
ている。
spirits, each of a different class,
7
can
つの
participate
ク
in
ラ
the
スの
ritual.
つまりそのサーバント
Which would
は
mean that that servant should be considered a master of this robe.
下手に霊地をつついて
It won't help us to
次々と
carelessly
似た
target
ような
spirit
英霊
pods
と
only
衝
to run
突
into
して
robes
も
like
しか
this.
これまで以上に
I suppose we'll need to
慎重にことを
proceed with
進
even
める
more
必要
caution
があ
from
りそう
here on out. And we're going to call it there for tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it each and every time. Next scheduled stream is going to be on Wednesday. The game is going to be Turnip Boy Robs a Bank. On Friday, I'm not sure if I'm going to be continuing this game or if I'm going to switch to something else. Haven't decided yet. Either way, I hope you have a wonderful night. I hope to see you again. Good night.